Hello there to all of you in week 2 of lockdown. Now hopefully you've all got past that stage of moping around the place and stockpiling toilet paper, and now you're ready to do something useful. This is a good opportunity to read some things which are interesting and influential, so here's a couple of short stories which meet both of those criteria. Both these stories are surprisingly influential despite their brevity, and both of them benefit from some reading around. We Can Remember It For You, Wholesale is a short story by Philip K. Dick, who is a hugely influential science fiction writer. It inspired the film Total Recall, which was a fantastic film. Now the plot involves a man by the name of Douglas Quayle, who has a very dull job at some point in the near future. He dreams of going to Mars, and this is a long-standing dream that he's had. And at the time, travelling to Mars is prohibitively expensive for somebody like him. So he decides that he's going to go instead to a company called Recall Incorporated. Now, at Recall Incorporated, they give you memories. They implant memories as a cheaper alternative to a real experience or real travel. Now, unfortunately, this is where things start to go wrong, and some real hidden, suppressed memories start to come to the surface. Now, this is where the film and the short story digress somewhat. In the Arnold Schwarzenegger film especially, there's a whole flurry of violence and excitement, and it's fantastic. Whereas in the Philip K. Dick story, it's slightly more low-key. Both of them, though, have strong dystopian overtones. There's a clean and bright, seemingly neon-lit future, which conceals a darker, repressive underbelly. It's interesting because in a number of ways it's quite prescient when you look at some of the technologies and some of the concerns that are there. And of course it's a very resonant idea. That's why of course there was a film. In fact there have been 2 films, although for my money I know which one I prefer. It's worth a read, definitely. It's a very short story. The prose style is interesting. It's quite sparse in some ways, and it's not always to everybody's taste, but I think it's an example of a writer who owes his success to the ideas that he has rather than the style of writing. The next story, The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, in many ways is quite a contrast. However, equally it's been extremely influential, not only in terms of film, but also in terms of theatre and the visual arts, and doubtless plenty more other areas. It takes the form of a secret diary of a young middle-class woman who has been diagnosed with a nervous depression by her husband, who is also a doctor. As a result of this, they go to take a rest cure at a hired, rented country house. During this time, she's confined to her room, and it becomes increasingly clear that the room itself and the whole situation is more like a prison than a form of treatment. Her only stimulus in this time is the yellow wallpaper in the room, and increasingly there's a sense of confinement and entrapment. It's a very interesting piece of writing, not only as a psychological study, but also for what it's often being read as, quite rightly I think, as an insight and a critique into 19th century views into the treatment of middle-class women. Unlike Dick, her prose is somewhat more powerful in some ways. The first-person perspective I think makes it more insightful in some ways. It puts us into her position, and there are strong Gothic overtones. Links to both these short stories are in the bit below this video, and hopefully you'll enjoy both. Not only reading that, but also reading around both of them. I think it's important to look at the influence they've had and to be aware of that and think about some of the ideas that they've engaged with. Let me know how you feel about them both with the feedback in the comments below, and hopefully we'll come back with more recommendations soon.